Larry Kudlow. Larry,
You know, Jay Powell's going to understand what you're talking about when he loses his job.
yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
So you mean loses instead of easing out in May, losing it before May?
However you define it, okay?
Right.
I mean, Reagan always said you're in a recession when your neighbor loses his job. And I think Jay Powell should think more seriously.
And you're in depression when you lose yours.
I don't think it's, I mean, I think the economy on the whole is pretty good, okay?
Right.
It's actually a pretty funny joke. He stepped all over it, but Charles is good for that.
I don't want to badmouth it. Business is very good, and everybody I talk to, deals and mergers and acquisitions and data centers and business equipment and 100% expensing and new factories are coming, all that's really good. Housing's terrible, as we were talking about before the break, during the break. Housing's terrible. Consumers are somewhere in between. But look, the inflation rate, okay, I heard your inflation numbers, but the deflator was basically 2.1% in the second quarter. I mean, that's a very good number.
Sure.
And that's a number, it's much lower than it was last fall when they had the jumbo rate cut before the election.
And that brings up, you know, listen, last year, a lot of guests came on and said this was a politically motivated rate cut. I pushed back on that back then. It's hard to push back on it right now in hindsight because all of a sudden there are new rules out there. But I'm going to go back to housing. 35 and under, the largest asset is your home. And it feels like the American dream has been based off, hey, let's get a home, let's have household formation. That's the engine. You have children, they go to school. That's what drives us, right? You need kids. We got a fertility crisis right now. And that's missing, Larry, and I'm really concerned about that.
And you need to be concerned about that. And if you're a parent, or if you even have young people in your life, it's something that you kind of have to start. You have to tackle, you have to think about, it's almost like you have to plan for their lives too in a much different way than the previous generation had to, right? The previous generation could just rely on the fact that, the economic engine is going to grow. You're gonna get a much higher paying job than your parents did, and then the relative increase of the housing cost would stay relative to the pay, and that's not happening, right? And I have, younger people in my life, and I'm sure you all do as well, in that moved out of the house range, but they cannot see themselves buying a house any point in time during the future, right? That whole notion of saving the 20% down is bonkers at this point. I mean, you're talking about, especially in a state like New York, right? Let's say you find a house for $400,000, which is going to be almost impossible. That's $100,000 of liquid cash you have to save. Number one. Then number two, then they're going to hit you with the closing cost, which is probably going to be at about another 20 grand, right? So you're looking at $120,000 to buy a house that doesn't exist, because I don't know of any houses that cost $400,000. And you're basing that off of somebody that's making 60 grand a year, 70 grand a year. It doesn't add up, right? What would they have to do? So if they're making 70 grand a year, they're taking home, what are they taking home? 45? Taking home $45,000 a year. And then their rent's what, $2,000 a month, and then maybe they have a partner, maybe they have a boyfriend or whatever, significant other, and they can combine their incomes and kind of do it. It's going to take them nearly at least a decade to come even close to it. And then in 10 years from now, what is that? You're going to need probably double that amount, right? It's just a complete, it's just despair. What I see in that age group, the 20 to 30 age group, is absolute despair, right? If they don't have a really super high paying job, right, and their partner is also like on par with that, they don't have a shot. They just don't. It's really sad. And, hopefully that can change. I don't know. If you got, please subscribe. I always forget to say that. I got signs everywhere telling me to say that. Subscribe to the channel. It's just a click. It doesn't cost you anything. Please do it. Let's hear what Charles has to say.
Yeah, I mean, if you own a home, you're doing well because prices are high and it's a form of wealth. The trick is getting into a home. That's the trick. And there are zoning issues and regulatory issues that are not unimportant, but interest rates and mortgage rates are very important in this game. As if you had a mortgage rate that was 2.5 to 3.5%, you don't feel like selling because you're going to have to swap into something that'll give you a much higher mortgage rate. There are a lot of impediments to it. You know, not everyone agrees with me, but I kind of like Trump's idea of just waiving the capital gains tax altogether on housing, because then I was thinking, if you did it for housing, then the next thing you might want to do is for stocks. And in fact, you might want to waive the get rid of the capital gains tax altogether, or at the very least, index it for inflation. Taxes can help here. That's what I'm saying. Now, one big beautiful bill hasn't really kicked in yet. It's just passed.
Sure.
So that's coming down the road.
And more deregulation is going to come.
A lot of jobs, factories, business equipment, data centers, as I said, all that stuff, that's coming. You saw some of that in the 3% GDP number that was out this week. So it's not all bad.
Yeah.
It's just that we could do better. Do you think Jay Powell knows? Does he know? I'm told, I'm told that economists at the Fed do not agree with Jay Powell, that they're not worried about tariff inflation. I've heard that from several sources.
But he wasn't worried about it until 3 months ago. He's on the record as saying it's a one-time price increase. He was not afraid of it at all, and this is what infuriates a lot of people. What happened to him?
He's taken his eye off the ball because he's rebuilding that Taj Mahal they got going there, and he's losing $100 million a year on a mismatch asset and liability. By the way, this is Senator Ted Cruz. The Fed is spending $168 billion. Here, $168 billion per year, paying banks reserve
not to lend money.
4.5%. Almost half of it's paying foreign banks.
Yeah.
They're not even American banks.
Yeah, if you're in the system. They're the same ones who got bailed out. They're all in that Fed system.
That is not a cool policy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this news just broke like they did this segment just prior to the market going down. The market tanked quite a bit when the jobs numbers came out, and they redid the old jobs numbers, and they realized that almost no jobs were created in the past 2 months. So not great news. Again, everybody knew this, right? Well, some people pretended like they didn't. Some people pretended like they did. Whatever. But for the most part, when it comes to the tariff situation, everyone had an idea that this was going to create a massive amount of volatility, right? You knew this. And a lot of people made a lot of money. A lot of people lost a lot of money because just like any other time, you buy the dip, you sell the high, or you buy the dip and you hold, right? Because that's what an investment, if you're not a market money manager guy, right? You're just a regular Joe Schmo. When the market goes down, you buy a little bit extra. That's just what you do. And it makes a lot of sense because over time, you could see the market. Yes, there are ups and downs, ebbs and flows when you take a look at it in a very narrow scope. But look at it in a 10-year scope, in a 20-year time frame. You're going to win. You're going to win. It just may be a little bit scary in the short term, but over the long term, you're going to be totally fine. And I really hope that the people are not afraid. They're not selling. It was like a 500-point dip today that happened today in the S&P. But that happened. I mean, I don't. I think it was the S&P. It happens. That's what the markets do, right? You win some, you lose some. But I think overall, the tariff stability is going to come into play. Canada's going to have to play ball. They're going to have to, and everything is just shaping up and setting up for the big game, the Super Bowl, right? China. That's what this is all boiling down to. All of this boils down to China. There's a couple of things in play right here. You have the China deal that's eventually going to happen. Then you have interest rates that are going to drop. So the people, again, I'm not a money guy. I have stocks. I mean, I just throw money in there. That's all I do. But if you listen to money guys and you listen to people that are devoid of politics and they're just looking at the facts that are in front of their face, you buy this dip now, it's going to ebb and flow. Once that China deal happens, the market's going to skyrocket, 100%. And then eventually, whether it's September or even the following year, once Powell drops the rates, it's going to be another absolute surge. No one is questioning that. You can ask anyone on either side of the aisle. China deal happens, a big surge. Jerome Powell, even a quarter point, it's going to go. Why? Because there's going to be liquidity in the market. Money's going to be flowing in. People are going to be able to borrow. right? People are going to be able to lend a lot faster. Mortgages are going to be a little bit cheaper, and things are going to get moving. So again, you got to listen to these guys. They're pretty damn good. Kudlow and Charles, they're great. I love them. They're very funny, very entertaining. Thanks a lot for coming on, guys. Check me out again on the next video. Check me out on the X, 6283talk on the X. Like me there, follow me there. Please hit the subscribe button, notification bell, all that good stuff. We'll see you again in the next video. Thanks a lot.